The story of Tu Diep does not open with fireworks, riches, or applause. It begins quietly, like dawn breaking over a tired countryside. With a soft voice, she greets life each day. "Hello everyone. I wish you all good health and peace." For Tu Diep, that is not a simple pleasantry. It is a prayer whispered into the winds of hardship, a prayer meant as much for herself as for the world. A new chapter was unfolding, one she never chose, but one she embraced nonetheless. With no one else to rely on, she stood where life demanded, a mother and a father in one body. The weight was heavy, but within her a gentle strength glowed. She carried the quiet conviction that love alone could form a family, even when loneliness shadowed her days. Shadows in the city. Far away, the city never slept. Its lights glittered against the night sky, but CEO James often felt like a lonely silhouette moving among them. His world was built on numbers, contracts, endless meetings, betrayals disguised as handshakes. He wielded power, yes, but every evening when silence closed in, the victories at the boardroom table felt hollow. What he missed most was not applause or profit, it was the warmth of Tu Diep's smile, the kind of smile that reminded him there was still something pure beyond the walls of his empire. Yet chaos surrounded him like a storm. Rivals clawed for his downfall, investors whispered their doubts, and James was trapped in battles only he could fight. He remained far from the woman who anchored his heart, not because he wanted to be, but because ambition had chained him. A chance encounter. Back in the countryside, Tu Diep bore her burdens silently. Each day she carried pineapples to market, returned to her modest home, and prayed for James's safety even though he was far beyond her reach. Life was hard, but predictable, until one afternoon altered everything. Among the crowded market stalls, she spotted a little girl no older than 6. Dust streaked her cheeks, tears welled in her eyes, and her tiny body shook with fear. Shoppers walked past without a second glance. No one claimed her. No one cared to stop. But Tu Diep did. She knelt, brushed the child's hair from her eyes, and whispered gently, "You can come with me, at least until we find your mother." The girl, Ni, clung to Tu Diep's hand with the desperation of someone who had been waiting all her life for a safe embrace. That evening, when Tu Diep prepared her modest meal of rice and vegetables, she placed an extra bowl on the table. Ni smiled, a small, tentative smile, but it was enough to split open something inside Tu Diep, wider than she ever expected. She had given the child food and shelter, but in return, the child gave her purpose. A mother by choice. Days blurred into weeks. Tu Diep began to work harder, not only for herself but for the little girl who now called her mother in a trembling, hopeful voice. Villagers whispered as they watched. Some spoke with pity, others with admiration, but Tu Diep ignored them all. For her, love was not bound by blood. It was a choice, the choice to protect, to nurture, to give hope. In the city, James's phone buzzed late at night with messages from Tu Diep. She never asked for money, never complained, never demanded. Instead, she sent him a simple photo, herself holding me, both of them smiling under the sunlight. For the first time in months, James felt his chest tighten, not from the pressure of corporate war, but from longing. Who is she? He asked hoarsely on their next call. A child who had no one, Tu Diep replied softly. I couldn't turn her away. She reminds me that life is still worth fighting for. On the other end of the line, James listened in silence. Nee's laughter drifted faintly in the background, light, innocent, and more powerful than any business triumph. In that sound, James felt something shift. The endless meetings, the hollow victories, the pursuit of wealth, all of it paled compared to the life waiting for him in a quiet countryside village. The fragile, unbreakable bond. Through Nee, James glimpsed not only Tu Diep's resilience but also the life they might one day share. A life where laughter rang louder than silence, where love triumphed over fear. For the first time, he dared to imagine returning, not as a distant, untouchable CEO, but as a man who belonged to a woman and a child who gave him reason to come home. It wasn't duty or ambition that pulled him back. It was a little girl's smile and the unwavering strength of the woman who had chosen to love without hesitation. James stared long at the photo of Tu Diep and Nee long after the call ended. Tu Diep's smile was gentle yet unyielding, the smile of a woman who had learned to stand strong, again and again, against the storms of life. And Nee's innocent face pressed against her side told a truth he could no longer ignore. His empire of glass and steel meant nothing if he couldn't share it with them. A return without applause, but returning home was not simple. His company was still under siege, contracts stolen, investors fleeing, shadows clawing at him. Yet the more he fought, the more he realized his true strength no longer resided in skyscrapers or strategy. It resided in the thought of Tu Diep waiting, raising a child with nothing but will and love. One night, after another grueling meeting, James left his office. His driver waited, but James waved him off. He walked the neon-lit streets alone, vision blurred by exhaustion, but in his heart, one image remained vivid. Tu Diep's hands cradling Nee's head, her voice humming a lullaby. That, he realized, was his real victory, the life worth protecting. Days later, James booked a flight without telling a soul. No grand return, no cameras, no audience. Only the longing to see her. As the car wound toward Tu Diep's modest home, his heart pounded not with fear of failure but with anticipation. At the edge of the fields, he saw her, hanging clothes on a bamboo line. Beside her, little Nee played with a wooden toy, laughter bright against the setting sun. James did not move at first. He simply watched, letting the warmth of belonging seep into his tired soul. When Tu Diep turned, she sensed him before she saw him. Her eyes widened, then softened with an unspoken knowing. "Diep," he whispered, his voice trembling, "I'm home." She did not rush to him or scold him for leaving so long. Instead, she smiled, a smile that forgave and welcomed at once. And when Nee tugged shyly at her dress and asked, "Mother, who is he?" Tu Diep bent down and answered softly, "He is someone very important to us." A second chance. That night, crickets sang under the oil lamp's glow as James sat beside her. For a long while, they did not speak. Finally, Tu Diep broke the silence. "You look different, James." "Not weaker, but tired. What is it you carry that makes you so heavy?" His eyes lowered. "My company is collapsing. Rivals are stealing contracts. Investors have pulled out." "John, he's been pulling strings, waiting for me to fall. But none of it hurts as much as the thought of losing you." Tu Diep reached across the table, brushed his hand with hers, and said steadily, "You are not alone anymore." "Whatever storm is coming, you don't face it by yourself." Her words cut deeper than any corporate promise. James realized then, he hadn't come back to escape failure. He had come back to fight, this time with new purpose. The threat returns. The following morning, James walked Nee to the market with Tu Diep. Her small hand in his felt like an anchor. Villagers whispered curiously about the stranger beside her, but for once James felt no need to impress. He was simply a man learning to earn the trust of a child, but peace never lasts. Later that week, a black car appeared at the edge of the village. The same stranger who had once shadowed Tu Diep stepped out, eyes cold. "You've hit him well, James," the man sneered. "But you can't run forever. John is waiting, and he won't stop until everything you love is ruined." James's fists clenched, but Tu Diep's hand steadied him. "We will not be threatened," she declared. Her voice carried more steel than the man expected. "This is our home." The stranger smirked, his gaze briefly flicking toward Nee before he returned to the car. The unspoken threat lingered like poison in the air. "This," James muttered heavily, "is why I feared coming back." They'll come after you. After her. Tu Diep shook her head firmly. No, James. This is why you needed to come back. Because together, we are stronger than any fear. For the first time in weeks, James drew a full breath. Her courage ignited a fire he thought he had lost. If John wanted war, James would fight, but not for pride, not for wealth. He would fight for Tu Diep, for Nie, and for the fragile, beautiful life they were building. What truly matters? In a world obsessed with titles, money, and recognition, James discovered a deeper truth. True wealth is not measured by numbers on a screen. It is measured by the bonds of love we create. Tu Diep's quiet resilience revealed that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is the steady hand comforting a child, or the voice that whispers faith into a weary heart. By choosing to adopt Nie, Tu Diep taught that love is not bound by circumstances. It is an act of courage, a decision to care even when the future is uncertain. James's return was not an escape from failure, but a turning point. Leadership, he realized, was not about domination but about protection. His greatest legacy would not be his empire, but the home he chose to build with the woman and child who had given him a second chance. Eternal bonds. Storms will always come, betrayal, failure, fear are unavoidable. Yet this story proves storms cannot destroy those anchored in love. Nie was not just a child in need of shelter. She was the bridge that united two hearts, making them stronger together than they had ever been alone. Success may fade, wealth may vanish, but the bonds of the heart endure. Tu Diep, James, and little Nie show us that family is not defined by blood, but by presence, by choice, and by the courage to stand together in the face of uncertainty.